Hey guys, what's going on? It's Rich here, taking you through another workout as I prepare for HYROX and DEKAFIT for the 2021 season. So this week we are going through workouts that are going to be a little bit more of a race type simulation, but just kind of built out a little bit different. So I'll tell you everything about them and go through all the different details, the mindset and the reasoning behind why we're doing the workouts this way. But before we get to that, hit us with a like and a subscribe if you're enjoying this content, and make sure to grab the free Run Faster guide for longer distance right down below in the captions. Cool, let's get to it. So for the first workout today, it was a descending ladder for a 30-minute AMRAP. So it was a longer duration here, and the idea was to kind of put it in the time frame of what around a DEKAFIT would be in that 30 minutes, but the movements themselves aren't necessarily going to be as conducive for DEKAFIT. It was more on the HYROX side, so it was a bit of a blend of both, just to make sure I'm still continuing to work on my weaknesses while putting myself in a time frame that is going to be a little bit longer and what's going to be a little bit more specific to what the event is going to be. I have 2 weeks until the first DEKAFIT event in West Palm Beach, Florida. So these next 2 weeks are going to be focused around kind of putting it in that time frame. The intensity was a bit lower because of the movements that I put in themselves. So anyway, this first workout, 30-minute AMRAP, we just have 3 different movements. We're doing 1,000-meter row to start, 800-meter run, 50-meter sled push, and then an 800-meter run. And then it's going to descend in volume on each round. So then it's going to go 500-meter row, 400-meter run, 20-meter push, 400-meter run, and then 250, 200, 10, and 200. And then it's going to go back to the top if you get through the whole thing. So give this one a shot. It was definitely a grind. Make sure the weight is heavy and see if you can get all the way through it, because the idea behind it was putting yourself in that place. So let's just kind of get to it. Because it is a lot of rowing and running, I cut off quite a bit of the actual workout itself. So you'll see that I'll be getting off of this rower here in a little bit, but as I was going through it, some of the main focus was staying as smooth as I possibly could, pushing through the pedals on the Concept 2 and making sure that chain can stay as straight as possible. So that first split for the 1,000-meter row was about 334, which is about 147 pace. That's faster than what I'm going to need to be for HYROX, and probably a little bit slower than what I would like to be for DEKAFIT. But I put it in a good spot. The sled push here was their main focus. So I should mention that 800-meter run is about 249, which is about 545 pace, which is as fast as it's going to need to be for HYROX. So you can see the intensity really kind of moves into that HYROX space, just because the workouts themselves, the stations themselves are really pretty challenging. So this is about 10 meters from where I'm stopping. You see I stop a little bit short of the edge just because I need some space to continue to move. It's about 10 meters. Maybe it's a little bit short. Here I was feeling really strong, so I tried to go a little bit higher. But you see this thing just kind of tips over when I do that. I don't know if that's what it's going to be like always. So I need to get my hips down. My hip angle needs to be about 90 degrees. It's a little bit higher than that here. Like I said, I was feeling strong this day, and I was able to kind of move the thing pretty well. This is easily the best sled push I've had in my training. And the weight's a little bit heavier, I should mention as well. I'm preparing for the HYROX carpet to be pretty tough, so that I want to make sure that it's a little bit heavier. So the HYROX weight is 370. The weight on this sled is 385. And again, so this is going to be hard for me in general, just because I have to push it the way that I'm pushing it, because I need to get my hips down a little bit lower. You can see the guys who are a little bit stronger, they have a little bit wider of a hip angle, just because they can push it a little bit easier. But I need to put mine way down so I can get as much force as possible. Ideally, I would be able to have my arms extended overhead. My overhead extension is poor. My thoracic mobility is really bad. I leak out a lot of energy up here. I'm not very stable when pressing overhead. So it's like really hard for me to move it like that. So I need to kind of keep my elbows in tight so I can keep my shoulders in there, and so I can get that angle low. And you can see I'm trying to keep my knee angle at about 90 degrees with that front angle. Anything further, more close than that, so if I bring my knee closer to the sled itself, it's just like I'm not able to produce enough power in that more closed off angle, and it just doesn't move. So it needs to be 90 at least for me. So that's kind of where it is there. So there's 2 times through. I'm feeling pretty good. End up on my knees as I always might with this sled. It's just freaking hard. So one more push to make it 50. One thing I was really focusing on, I made sure to look at my splits on my watch. You can see I'm referring to it quite a bit. I wanted to keep it around 10 seconds for each rest period. This was definitely a little bit longer on this end, as this was my last push and just trying to gear myself up for it. But I did a decent job in keeping myself honest with the recovery itself, as it can definitely go sideways if you're not paying attention to what your rest is going to be, if you don't have a plan for that. And so it's going to be a big focus of mine, is just seeing what it feels like to kind of stay on top of it and just really, what can I do with limited rest? And as I progress forward, I'm going to continue to make this thing heavy and continue to work on keeping that rest short, because that's really the problem there. So the sled push was 321, which is pretty solid for me. If you're under 3, you're really moving that thing. So for me, I feel good about being at 321. Again, this carpet's probably a little bit better than what we're going to be doing for actual HYROX itself. That run was much slower. It was about 628 pace. So like, the sled is just hard. I must say that there was a real heavy headwind coming out of this building. It was probably 25, 30 miles per hour. It was really, really heavy. And I had done some running before this. I had about the 40-minute run with some higher intensity sprint stuff, which just kind of adds to that general fatigue. So as I get back to the rower, I'm here for 500 meters, which will definitely cut. But decent transition into it, keeping my form as good as possible. I was really focusing on generating a lot of power through my legs so that I wasn't needing to get my stroke rate that high. I wanted to keep it under 30, and that's pretty much where it ended up being. Leaving this 500 meter at about 153. So I'm happy with that. If I can maintain that for the HYROX row, I'll be definitely pleased. And as I come back off this run, it was about 6:15, a little bit slower coming through. But again, I'm not. It's fine. It's fine. Again, that's not gonna fly for a DEKAFIT event. For a HYROX, gonna be not bad. But got right back to the sled push. Was able to feel confident going into that I wouldn't necessarily need to have too much of a break. For HYROX itself, the stations make or break everything. And I don't necessarily anticipate running much faster than 6-minute pace for an event, unless I really kind of get my fitness up leading into the first event in about a month. I would love to run 5:30s, and I think that's within my ability as a runner, but the workout stations make or break. And I'm not gonna work so hard on running to try to make up ground from the workout stations. The workout stations need to get better. So that's kind of the idea behind, again, putting this workout together in particular, is seeing how the running is going to feel after these 2 stations, which are hard, and then kind of getting on that rower under fatigue as well. Because a lot of times, like with this row under fatigue, people were going for a 1,000-meter row at HYROX. People were averaging over 2 minutes, and I really want my ceiling for that to be about like 155. I don't see any reason for that not to be the case. So this sled push for the 20 meters was 137. I'm definitely getting tired here. I think it's about, I don't know, about 20 minutes into this workout. This run was 139, which is 6:47 pace. So I am getting tired. So I sit back down on here, and it's really got me thinking about the best way to kind of move going forward is making this run even shorter, making it 200 meters of run, making it 250, because as the run was longer, it gave me more time to really kind of settle in and recover and run faster. As I started to recover, I was able to really kind of pick up the pace, which is encouraging for something like HYROX, which is a 1,000-meter row, that my endurance is going to be there, and I'm going to really kind of be able to call back on that skill of running to be able to get it to the pace where it needs to be. But I need to work on getting on it really quickly and not having it take time. So getting the runs shorter and really kind of pressing those runs, those like the 200-meter runs, 300-meter runs, 400-meter runs, and getting back into the swing of things as quickly as I can. So for this row, it was just 250. It ended up being about 156 pace per 500, which is slower than it was for the 500-meter row. So that's fine. Again, I'm just feeling pretty fatigued here. And then the runs were just pretty brutal at this point, where I was running 7:30 pace for this 200. Again, that's why I was thinking I just need to run a little bit quicker and have these run transitions a little bit shorter. Right back in the pushes one time through. So again, transitions are pretty quick, which I'm happy with. That was overall the idea behind this. And the sled pushes, they went well for what they were themselves, but the running after the pushes really were hard. And coming out of this, my pace was about 8-minute pace after this one, and I'm just whipped. And that was kind of the idea behind this, is just kind of getting as much volume as I could get of all these different workouts. And that's kind of the idea in general, is putting them in place so I can get more work instead of just doing like straight up race simulations where it would just be the same volume over and over and over. I want to overload that to make my relative idea of what is long or what is hard or what is intense. I wanted to expand that, so my maximum amount of power, the maximum amount of volume I can handle at a high output begins to increase. So instead of just doing race sims all the time, building out more work in specific areas is really what's going to move the needle for me the most in these. This last 1,000 meters was a bit rough. It was 4:14 for 1,000. Again, this is about 26 minutes into the workout itself, so that cuts off. So and just looking at the splits in general, things definitely got worse as it went on, as expected, but I'll definitely take it for what it is here, and just gives a good idea of what to work on and what needs to be done going forward. So you can see things do get pretty slow throughout. And I don't necessarily think it's a pacing thing. I think maybe the pace on the first row was a bit aggressive, but I wanted it to come out hot, and I was really wanted to build fatigue and not necessarily simulate what my race tactics are going to feel like. I wanted to more simulate the feeling of what it would be in the later rounds, or what it's going to feel like coming off of a row and off of a hard row and into a run. So it was much more about simulating the feeling than simulating the actual pace. So in terms of pacing, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. I just need to really kind of build up my endurance and become a little bit more fatigue resistant when it comes to the actual workouts themselves. So the second workout was 3 rounds of 500 meter Skierg, 60 burpee broad jumps, and 20 meter sled pull. So let's just kind of get right into that. So this is the second round that we're going to capture here in the workout. So getting started on this Skierg, it's just hard. I don't really understand the Skierg that well. I don't know if it's just like body type or just not even being able to generate that type of power coming down. It's just a strange way to train. I just need a little bit more time on this and really pushing as hard as I can possibly go to create more power coming down. It's very core centric. It just blows me up a little bit. So I think just spending more time there, doing more weighted sit-ups, doing more GHD sit-ups, more toes to bar, things that can really kind of load the abs and kind of create a little bit more of a dynamic movement there. And it's hard to really train your core midsection like in a plyometric manner. It's very slow twitch in your core. It's primarily made of slow twitch muscle fibers, so I think it is just kind of raising the ceiling of what is going to make it more, again, fatigue resistant as opposed to making it any more powerful. And then just really focusing on dropping my butt down a little bit quicker, a little bit heavier. It's just to be a little more dramatic and driving myself to the ground. I could probably do a better job getting up on my toes as that comes up, and getting a little bit closer to the top, have the handles come a little bit closer to the top than need be. Again, this is the second round. My first round, my Skierg split was a 152, which is like fine. That would be fine pacing for HYROX itself. But for DEKAFIT, it's going to be pretty slow. But I'm tired. Look here. I'm just exhausted at this point. And I don't like there. When it goes, it just goes. On a rower, I can just kind of drive my legs into it a little bit harder and always do a little bit more. But for Skierg, it just kind of goes, and when it just gets a little bit slower, and then I think I just get frustrated as opposed to just wanting to kind of stick with it. So definitely an area of development here. Now I'm just waiting for it to be done because that's what I want it to be. So again, that was about 202 for that Skierg, and then right into the burpee broad jump. So with the burpee broad jump, I pretty much decided that this is going to be the way I'm going to go about doing that. You can see coming one leg up at a time. So you can see there's a couple different strategies for this, and when watching some of the videos of the athletes doing it, the Hunter, he jumps up for 2, but you'll see as you jump up with 2 legs, your legs end up being a little bit wider, and you kind of have to fix your legs to come back underneath your hips, because that's a more advantageous place to jump. Jumping from like with your feet a little bit more narrow than your hips, that's just how you do it. Like that's how you get the most power at it. So if you can walk yourself up, you're already in a good jumping position, and you kind of carry a little bit more momentum as well. Another thing I want to focus on throughout here is, the step and the jump, and keeping my hips low and just getting right back to the ground on each one of these jumps. So these actually went pretty well. I did a better job in the later rounds of diving onto the ground. I'm kind of slow to the ground in this round, but ideally we'd want to hit that as fast as possible and just get that chest to the ground first, and not have like the quads or the hips lead as they do when I get tired. So moving through these is I like this. I thought I was going to dislike this a little bit more, but it did end up being a little bit more engine. And this is about 60 meters in HYROX is 80. So I was able to get a lot of work in for this. So I got 180 total feet of jumps in, which is good. And then for the rope pull, for the pull, I was able to fix 2 type of ropes and straps together. So the rope, I'm able to pull, and it's just like heavy. This is definitely going to be hard for the HYROX. It's not necessarily too heavy, but it's just going to be a slow go. It just doesn't move very well. Just trying to move things up, and again, I'm pretty tired, and this weight is over the actual weight itself. There's an extra 25 pounds of weight on here, again, just to account for the carpet, account for what it's going to look like. So I was able to kind of get a full 10 meters of a strap on one end, which is great because the length of the rope matters as well. So the longer I can get this rope, the better. But it's not ideal. This part now isn't rope. This is like just straps. So it's a little bit harder to grab, a little bit more strange to kind of grab, but it's closer to the end part of the workout, so I'm able to just kind of deal with it and kind of get it through. The other side is just a strap, so this is more going to be what the preparation would be for a DEKAFIT event, where you pretty much just walk the thing back. They're like TRX handles that you just kind of set up, and you just slide things back. I think for this round, I just did it, held it as I would for the HYROX hold, and just like walking it backwards, because that's going to be the main type of strength you need, is that like reverse type of walk. And again, the strap is just uncomfortable to hold. So this is what the hold is going to look like for a DEKAFIT event, and just making sure I can continue to kind of pull things back through it. So the splits for this workout were as follows. It was keeping it right around 150 for those burpee broad jumps, and right around 150 for the actual sled pull itself. And the Skierg just kind of got a little bit slower as we went on. 152 to start, 202, and then 204. So again, this is just a great way to kind of get some extra volume in and working on specific skills. Putting it after that big 30-minute AMRAP is a way to work on these skills under fatigue. That seems to be the hardest part of training for these events, is like figuring out what you're going to feel like later in those events. You can do all these things fresh and I'm going to feel good, but when you're getting like really tired, like you don't know what's going to go wrong or how things are going to feel. So putting them in this type of thing, and you can scale it this way too. So if I wanted to work on these things specifically next week, I could do a 4th round, or I could add I can make it 80 burpee broad jumps or 30 meters of sled pull, and just continue to kind of progress. So it's a really nice way to kind of train for these things, kind of putting them back to back to back without the running in between, because there's been quite a bit of that already. And at a point, that type of fatigue might be a little bit more of a beat down than helpful for the skill of things. And then moving that, and then having 2 minutes of rest in there ensures that you're going to be able to kind of do them at an output where you want it to be. If it was 3 rounds for time, the pacing would have gotten much slower. So I want to kind of keep that pace where I would like for it to be, and keeping it in that realm where it could comfortably be that. So this is the last workout, and as I was saying, the hardest part of that was definitely no rep. The hardest part of training this, like you can do wall balls all day, but like if you're doing wall balls fresh, it's completely different than doing them fatigued. And that's kind of the deal with this event in general, is like how these wall balls are going to feel later into the event, and are they going to blow you up like crazy, or are you going to be able to kind of like hold your own on these? So this I wrote was just 1 round of max unbroken wall balls. For the HYROX event itself, I don't plan on doing a max unbroken. I'll probably I could always do 25 at a time and have a really short rest, or whatever that looks like. I want to have a plan. I don't want it to be like, let's just see how it goes and see if I can get things done. It would be great, but I don't necessarily think that could be the case for a HYROX event to do 100 unbroken at the end, which would be amazing, but can't count on it. So this is kind of where I'm at with the wall balls, and I wrote it at the end of this workout, obviously because it's the last thing in HYROX, but also over the course of this day, I'm about an hour 30 minutes into the day of work. So you got to take advantage of the fatigue that's already accumulated throughout, and it's not a fun thing to do at the end of a workout. Is like this kind of like max effort of something that's super annoying, but it's the closest way you're going to simulate what it's going to feel like without doing a full sim. So in the previous workouts, I've broken things out a little bit more so that I can work on some other skills and then kind of build some volume here. And so this week I just kind of decided to go for it, see where we're at in terms of max ability for the wall balls. So the things to focus on is just making sure you're doing everything the exact same. I got into a rhythm here where I was able to kind of really focus on catching the ball on my way down, which is going to be a really good time saver. So it's not like a catch and then a drop. So just actually moving down as that ball's coming down. Make sure that butt gets below parallel. I saw they were handing out some no reps at the Dallas event, so I do want to make sure that happens, and make sure that ball's getting up. Over the course of this full time, I probably had 2 or 3 no reps, but overall I was pretty happy with what this depth looked like, and the ball getting to that target every single time, which is 10 feet. This is a 20 pound ball, and if like you don't have the time to do a hour and 40 minute workout and then do wall balls at the end, I would just get a heavier wall ball. Do a 30, do a 20 for the women, or go a little bit higher on the target, just to make sure that you are working under fatigue for that. So this was the actual RX. It's a 20 pound ball and a 10 pound target. I don't know where I'm at here in terms of counting. I hadn't done a max set for about a year, so I wasn't quite sure where I was going to be. So where we ended up was about 108 wall balls unbroken. So I'm real happy with that. Definitely a confidence booster. Again, I don't think that's what I'm going to do. Next week, I think I'm going to do Karen, which is 150. I think my best time for that is about 5:20 something. And the wall balls, I think I got through in 3:30 or something like that. So another 50 would be probably real close to that 5 minute mark. So I would love to just kind of PR that thing. That'd be great. So yeah, definitely pleased with that. That's what this week's workout was looking like. Give it a shot. All my splits are right here and listed below in the show notes. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. And again, hit me with a subscribe and a like. Grab that free Run Faster guide in the comments, and we'll talk to you next week.